So much of our information is digital right now that if the power went out, we would instantly lose access to all of these databases.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like
It's
books?
so fragile.
You had a bookshelf, power went out, you had books. There was a funny meme where some guy was like, the future is lame, my book just ran out of batteries.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I was on a plane and my book ran out of batteries. What am I supposed to do? Yep.
I mean, that's the end of Spaceballs, right? Even in the future, nothing works.
Yeah.
That's the line when the self-destruct cancellation button doesn't work.
It's convenient that my phone grants me the summation, grants me access to the summation of human knowledge. But when the battery dies, I got a brick.
Actually, have you heard about this idea that we're going to enter a new, historically speaking, not for us in the moment, we're not going to live through a dark age, but historically speaking, this is going to be a huge dark age because everything's digital, right? So if you, the thing I saw about it was like, well, if you write on a clay tablet, right? If you scratch or, cuneiform or whatever it is on a clay tablet, 5,000 years later, if it didn't break, you can still read it, right? Well, if you put something on like a DVD, which is far better storage than, say, a thumb drive, which if like 2 drops of water hit it, all your data's gone. You put something on like a physical medium like a DVD, you got 10 to 12, 15 years before that thing can degrade enough, unless it's one of those really, really expensive ones that most people don't use.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is we have all these records, like, your Wikipedia entry, which my Wikipedia entry, which is lit. They're all just ephemeral.
Is it wrong?
Well, sometimes it changes a lot.
I think you should sue them.
It's a little bit wrong. At one point, though, somebody added that I have gigantic balls made of brass. And that was a sentence on my Wikipedia for about like 4 days.
And it's wrong because it's titanium.
That's right.
Yeah.
The gigantic part is correct. The metal part is correct. They got the metal all wrong.
Brass is too soft.
Yeah, that's
Sorry
right.
about that.
And it turns things green. Yeah, right.
I thought I was right.
No, but I was talking about this the other day, that if we got hit by that solar flare that they've been talking about.
Well, we almost did.
Well, you'd walk into people would like wearing their leathers with spears and paint under their faces. They'd walk into a Manhattan data center and be like, "Kids, look, knowledge. It could teach us how to find food, how to generate electricity, but we have no idea how to access any of it."
Yeah.
So it's gone.
We almost did. I don't know if you knew that. It was like
No, what happened?
2004 or 5. We'd have to look up the date. There was like the solar flare
ejection
that
or
would have destroyed. Yeah, a big CME that would have been like it for our entire grid, right? And the way everything's spinning, the sun's spinning, the Earth is moving. It missed by like, if the sun had blown up like 16 hours earlier, it would have been a direct hit and fried Earth.
Wow.
And that's how much it missed by. And it went off into space beside the Earth. The Earth just barely missed it.
But the U.S. government's got deep underground bunkers with Faraday cage under Faraday cage and protection from nuclear blasts and all that stuff.
Yeah, all your nudes are definitely in those bunkers that Google's been storing up. You think I'm joking?
Have you played the game Fallout 3?
No.
You'd love it. Fallout 3 is one of the best in the Fallout series, but it's post-apocalyptic and you're in Washington, D.C. Like a nuclear war happened and now there's mutants and, ghouls. They're like people with like radiation sickness and stuff. And it's a real map of DC. It's amazing. But there's the bad guys, or an element of what you could describe as bad guys, the Enclave, remnants of the U.S. government who have technology because they were in bunkers. And then there's other people who have technology too, but they're like, the remnants of the U.S. government. So if there was to be a major EMP, nuclear war, or some kind of apocalypse, whatever, the governments of the world will survive it.
Yeah, it's a shadow government. I asked Alex Jones what's the difference between the deep state and the shadow government a couple of years ago, before I learned more about the administrative state actually being the deep state. He was like, the shadow government's in case there's a nuclear war. They're all ready for it.
Oh, that was a good impression. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, Alex is.
Yeah, you got down there.
Man.
You got deep.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
was
Deep and kind of gravelly.
Yeah, a
That's
little
his
gravelly.
signature.
Real serious.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll tell you, the hard drives, we're evolving to do hard drives made out of glass. So if there's an EMP, you'll still be able to hit it with a laser and read the data. And also DNA. They're storing data in DNA.
That's terrifying.
So there have like been weird conspiracies about quartz crystal as data storage or energy storage and stuff like that. And it's entirely possible that there exists, maybe you're a fan of ancient aliens or whatever. It's possible. I'm not saying it's likely or even remotely likely, but there could be ancient data storage tech that we just assume is a rock, and we would never know. If you gave a hard drive to an Amazon tribe with like no contact with other civilization, they wouldn't know what it was.
Yeah, no.
You couldn't even explain to them how the information is on there.
No, not even close.
I like the idea that in the future, men are proposing with like rings that actually store all of the most important data that they have, and then they have to trust that this woman is not going to lose it. Like that's how strong your bond in marriage has to be.
I think where we're headed is that the woke people are going to line up for Neuralink and enter the metaverse, and that's where they're going to be, and that they're going to drag everybody else in.
That's I think the attempt. There's actually a policy document from the World Economic Forum. It's their Vision 2025 document that I read the other day. I read such fun things, and I'm reading through all of these, different visions in like education and technology and all of this, and then I'm starting to read like comparing against some of the different articles they put out that they cite. And there's this article that they put out that said that ed tech has failed their vision. Like they wrote all this stuff back in like 16 about how important it was for ed tech to rise up and do social emotional learning and literally like read kids' emotions with like heart monitors and eye tracking and like all this crazy stuff. That's happening, by the way. In Florida, they're actually doing an experiment in some counties with what they call heart math. So while you do your math lesson, you're strapped into a heart rate monitor to find out what stresses you out about the math lesson. Wow. Like, I don't want any company having that data, by the way. Yeah. But I'm reading this thing and it's like, well, what we're learning is that you can bring education into the metaverse, but not the other way around. And so the goal will be that school is in the metaverse. Like, if you want your kid to go to school, they're going to have to slap on a Facebook-owned Oculus and go into the metaverse, and, who knows what's going on in there. And you think you're going to be able to look over your kid's shoulder and see what's happening on the iPad. No, it's going to be in the metaverse. They're talking about digital travel in that document, so nobody's going anywhere. The plebs have to go to meta Rome. Only the real rich and famous can go to Rome for real, for example. And so they're actually talking about this, though. The travel industry's way deep into virtual travel. Could you imagine like signing up for a cruise and really all they do is put you in like a classroom with like a drop ceiling, and then you put your goggles on and you pretend you're at sea? Like,
yeah, you ever seen those? They have these things you can buy where it's like a body harness and you're standing on a bowl and you put on special shoes and you can actually walk by, like, the shoes are touch sensitive or whatever, so when you walk, you're actually walking in the metaverse. I was at VidCon 6 years ago, and they had a big display where there were two guys up on these things strapped in, and they were running full speed, but they're strapped in a body harness, and you could watch what they see, and they were playing a first-person shooter against
with haptic vests and stuff, so you can feel yourself getting haptic hands and stuff. Right now, I think the biggest advancements they've made is they have a lot of different tech that doesn't really work together very well to provide a mostly immersive experience, but that will be a big part of it.
Yeah, they talk about virtual reality in education, but they also, like, there's another document, this paper called Psychodata, put out by actually a critical theorist by the name of Ben Williamson, 2019, in the Journal of Education Policy. And he's talking about that the actual point of all this is to harvest the data. That's the real point. And he argues, he's like, why are they harvesting the data? Well, number one, they want to create perfectly forecastable economic conditions in people. So they want to make you perfect for the market so they can predict exactly how much money you'll spend and when, and then condition you to make sure that you meet your predictions. And then secondly is to control populations. So what it is a gigantic data harvesting program to make you think you're playing a video game or sending your kids to school. And, right now they're surveying the kids primarily. They have to fill out these surveys all the time. School just started back. So all these parents are like screenshotting them and sending them to me on social media that's not Twitter. And it's kind of like freaky, the things they're asking these kids. It's like, do you ever think about racist stuff? It's like crazy. How often do you think about suicide? They're asking kids questions like that. Wow. Yeah, it's intense. And then, how much money do your parents make? There's all these crazy intense survey questions they're asking these kids all the time as a result of the implementation of social emotional learning.
It's almost like aliens are here, in secret, and they're collecting data and like researching us. I'm saying almost, like, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying it feels that way. It feels like we're like chickens in a chicken coop.
Well, I mean, so my guess is if we are looking at kind of a revolutionary moment, is that if I were a communist and I were looking at the situation, I would say, well, in the past we've attempted to build out the society, right? The economy. That was the Soviet Union. We built the economy and tried to force people to live in it, and it was a catastrophe. And then in China, we built the people, we built all the revolutionaries, and then this hasn't worked out the way we wanted it to either. What do you have to do? You have to build them both at the same time. So you start harvesting the data while you program the kids in the school, and then you're building the society based on the data you're harvesting from the kids, the economy, the completely controlled and conditioned economy. And then smack, when the metaverse is ready, everybody's pushed into the perfect simulation economy.
Will you control what people can see and hear and say? and you'll control what their reality is. People don't know what they don't know.
That's right.
I did a digital tour of one of the great pyramids of Egypt. You can go inside and go down frame by frame and look around and look at the walls, and like I really feel like I was there. Sometimes I'm like, I forget that I wasn't in Egypt when it was immensely awesome.
Yeah, so I mean that's immensely awesome, but then imagine what they could do with that. First of all, how would you even know if it's really the real thing, right? So what if you had gone down like halfway down the thing, you probably would have been like, wait a minute, if somebody had like spray painted a giant penis on the wall or something like that. But they could insert that in, or it could really be there, and then they've deleted it and you don't know. But then everybody, we always talk about the sell the dream side of this. Wow, I had this experience. I was in Egypt. I got to experience what it's like to win the Super Bowl kind of firsthand. I got to be on the field. I was Tom Brady. It was so amazing. They don't ever tell you that they could also just import you into like a torture prison.
Yeah. Yep.
They don't ever tell you that part.
There's a movie we've talked about before where it's like this. They invent this thing they put in your eye, and it gives you experiences. So this woman, she like drops it, and like nanobots go into your brain, and then she experiences a weekend in Aspen, and she's skiing and snowboarding, and then her partner, against her wishes, makes prison nanites. So like you put in someone's eye, and they experience 100 years in jail.
Yeah,
And then
that's what I'm saying.
5 minutes later, they wake up like all messed up.
Yeah, totally messed up. Like I read this book. It's called Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism by Robert J. Lifton, and he was in Hong Kong in the 1950s. He published it in 1961, and what he's doing is he's actually interviewing people as they got out of Mao's prisons in the 50s. Like literally like a week after they get out of 3 years in a Maoist communist prison, and he's interviewing these people, and he says that literally zero people were affected differently by their 3 to 5 years in prison in the Chinese thought reform prisons, or brainwashing prisons, Xinao in Chinese as they call them, and but everybody was affected. Everybody came out completely imagine of course you would, but as a completely different person. And you could do that digitally. We don't need gulags if you have digital experience gulags, and you can't leave your house because you don't have enough credits, like in Australia when they did the COVID, and if you left your house, like a freaking drone is following your car or something. This isn't just like hyperbole anymore.
You're familiar with the rat experiment? Which one? The Hope experiment?
No. Well, maybe.
Took 3 cylinders, put rats in each one, let them swim until they got tired. But within about 15 minutes, the rats gave up, sank to the bottom, and died.
Oh, yeah.
Then he took another group of rats. He put them in. Right when they gave up, he grabbed them, took them out, dried them off, and let them rest. Then picked them back up, put them in. The second time around, they swam for 60 hours because there was hope. They believed that if they just stuck to it, they would eventually be saved, and they shouldn't give up. And so some have made the argument, following the pandemic and all the insane things they did, we're still in it. We're just in the hope portion. And this explains why they built permanent facilities in, say, Australia and other places. Australia's got this the Howard Springs, I think it's called. We actually had we showed you the shirt earlier when you're over here. They built permanent facilities.
It was
for what, 6 months?
Well, it existed before. It was
right, it was mining,
a place for mining.
Right. But I mean, like the work that they did organizing these facilities and setting them up, I don't think was just for 6 months.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.